You're listening to the Dudes and Dads Podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMott and Andy Lehman.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are on episode 7. Joel, can you believe, I say that about every episode, I think, can you believe it? It's the next episode, but really, we love doing this and we're glad to be back.
Episode number 7, lucky number 7.
That's my Enneagram type, by the way.
Number 7.
I am the Enneagram 7.
So is my wife. That's why I'm strangely drawn to you.
That's weird, but whatever. Well, so we're back with episode 7, and this episode is called Batman, Superman, and Indiana Jones.
I'm on the edge of my seat already with a title like that, Andy.
So you're going to have to wait to find out what we're talking about, because first, we want to tell you how we are going to give the book away. The book that Dustin Carr talked about last week, the one he wrote, we are going to be giving it away, and we want you to have it. So it's a treasure, by the way. Dear boys, this book, I think no matter where you are in your fatherhood journey, or even if you're thinking about being a father, this is a great resource for sure. It definitely is. And if you missed it, go back and check it out. Episode 6, he talks about a framework, just about a letter he created for his boys, and just kind of how he can pass his idea of manhood on to them and what that means for them. So go ahead and listen to that, and we're going to give that book away, though. So here's how you can win that book. So for this episode, episode 7, we always post in the link when it comes out. So tomorrow, when you hear this, go to Facebook, and you'll see the link to this episode. We would like you to like and share the post. So do both. You have to like and share the post and comment on the post about just anything you want. It can be any comment at all. You can comment on this episode, the episode of Dustin Carr. Doesn't really matter. We just want you to comment, like, and share those 3 actions on the post for this episode, episode 7. We know some people don't have Facebook because not everyone does and digs the Facebook thing. So we want you guys to be involved in this too. So there is another way that you can get this book. That is by calling our voicemail line, which is 574-213-8702. So again, that's 574-213-8702. That can also be found on the Facebook page and on our podcast page, dudesanddadspodcast.com. We want you to leave a voicemail there, but make sure when you do that, you can leave it about anything that we want, but make sure when you do that, you leave your email address so that way we can contact you. We won't play it on the show. We won't play we will not send out your social security number. We won't give your personal email address to everybody. We'll cut that off, but we would like you to leave a voicemail, and so that way we can play it on our show, because we love you guys' feedback, and we want to give this book to you. So go ahead and do that so we can give the book away.
I love it. Giveaways are fun. They're a fun time. We should do more of them. You know what we need to do is have more people give us stuff so we can give more stuff away.
We can do that.
I love it.
So, so this episode that we're talking about tonight, we did mention it's the Batman, Superman, and Indiana Jones. And that's an intriguing title because, Joel, tell us why.
It's almost like we came up with this only a few minutes ago. In the course of me thinking about stuff, Andy, I don't know if you ever just sit around and think about stuff. I try to on occasion.
When I have a few minutes, I try to.
That's right. But, this I mentioned this fancy term last episode when we talked about executive attention, where we think about thinking.
Right.
I think it's an important life skill. Those opportunities feel few and far between in the station of our life when someone is always yelling my name.
Usually in the bathroom, I'm thinking about.
That's
where we do it. This at.
There's like Murphy's Law, and then there's I don't know what it would be, like the bathroom law when you have that few minutes you can actually think and be by yourself sometimes. And dad.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just sitting around thinking the other day, and I want to say this actually came to me on a country road somewhere. I was thinking about how we are demonstrating to our kids this sense of basically how healthy ways and good understandings of depending on other people.
Okay.
And that because recently say Batman, Superman, Indiana Jones, these are kind of cultural characters of just the rugged individualist.
Those people who don't actually ever rely on anybody because they're they're the ones who are usually like saving everybody and doing all the fun adventure stuff that they do those things that they don't need other people.
Right. And I think about now Batman and Superman in particular. Now Batman, can be the kind of alone unto himself because he's incredibly wealthy, right? So he's got Wayne Enterprises and has he just kind of has this. He can do all the things that he does because now some people were like, well, he's got Alfred and he's got, but like okay, he's going out by himself.
Doing the actual like saving it, right? That's
right.
his job, and
right.
Yeah, he has people supporting him, but he doesn't his job mainly
to himself. And then Superman, obviously, he's a Superman, and is really, really a pretty solitary character for the most part. And and it's like, man, look at the one individual. Look at he is an individual, one individual, what he can accomplish and what he can do, and it sort of speaks to some sort of kind of a mythos, a cultural myth that exists that we kind of are attracted to. And then, of course, Indiana Jones. Now, Andy, I don't know about you, but I've got a soft place in my heart for Harrison Ford. Who's with me?
Those movies are great. I love them. My kids actually love them even more. Like I think love them more than I do.
Yeah, and let me just say, I never get tired of watching them, to be honest with you. But this will take us back a little bit. I don't know if you'll remember this. So back when those movies were first hitting VHS, that's right, guys, VHS.
Way back in the day.
Back in the day. McDonald's did a promo.
Ooh.
Where, like, if you got, like, I don't know, the Big Mac meal, you got a Indiana Jones VHS.
I don't remember that.
True story. So, because my parents are beautiful people, they went to different McDonald's because they weren't always,
they weren't the same.
Yeah, they always weren't always the same. So, we got all three of the all three of that trilogy by just some strategic McDonald's visits back in
the 80s.
Back in the 80s.
Back in the 80s.
Man, oh man, I have a memory of that. Wow. So, but Indiana Jones. No, I love Indiana Jones. Some would argue again he's got friends, but he's doing the rescuing. He's rescuing his friends.
Right. When you think of those movies, you don't normally just think of all the people that are involved in that franchise. You think of Indiana Jones. You think of him. Yep. He's doing it himself.
Yep. He's overcoming the Nazi party or the weird cult Nazis come into play frequently. And I think about. But I think about those characters, and again, they're exciting to us because it's like it's sort of the strength of the individual, right? And
I think that's just kind of an overall, like when you think of dudes, you're like, you want to see the dude who can do it all, like you want to be the dude who can do it all, like. Yep. But yeah, so that's why we like those, because those are the things that that kind of play into the stereotypical idea of what manhood is.
Right. Yeah, I think that's right. And yet, as I I'm looking back here, your let's see, have you guys had your anniversary, or is it coming up?
It is coming up on the 19th, so it is this month.
The 19th. So we're the 17th. So it'll be 13 years for us, 15 for you.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. And I think this is safe to say. I look at our wives, and I think to myself, in light of this desire to be, we talk about the rugged individualist or whatever, a good portion of the things that I have accomplished over the last 13 years of my life are absolutely not possible
without your wife.
Without my wife, without someone else in the picture.
Even this show has something to do with our wives, because we could not do it without them, because we have kids at home.
Truth.
And they usually are putting them to bed because we record in the evening. They're doing the main majority of the parenting while we're recording this episode.
They're killing it, is what they're doing, or killing a child, or threatening to kill a child. Someone's probably being threatened right now, actually, Andy, as we speak. But, I've been mulling this over, right? And I'm doing some prep for a message that I'm giving here in a few weeks, and talking about modeling this and thinking about, okay, how do we talk to our kids about, I think, an appropriate level of self-sufficiency? Like, eventually they gotta learn to tie their shoes by themselves. They gotta learn to do things by themselves, and as they grow up, there'll be more and more things that they have to be able to accomplish. And at the same time, being by themselves or just relying on their own power in life catches up to you.
And it's kind of a scary thing too, as you think about it, with being a parent of kids, like letting them go and trying to teach them. Like, sometimes that failure, I know for me, like, even the other day I was doing something and Julie said to me, like, she was watching. I was doing it with the kids, and eventually I just said, like, here, let me do it because it's going to be faster. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, let's do it. Yeah. There was no reason for me not to. Like, and in fact, it was their project. It was something they were doing. Yeah. And yet I kind of took over just because I wanted it done fast and done right. So, like, how do we do that? Not only that, but, like, how do we as men rely on other men also? Because I think that's an important thing, too.
Yeah. I'm right now, and I'm a little bit... So for me, like right now, I've got a group of, which reminds me, I got to send out an email to these fine people. But I've got a circle of men that pray for me regularly, right? Like Andy being one of them. Actually, we'll say that. So, but I've got a group of 5 guys that I, on occasion send out an email to and say, hey, here's what's going on in my life. Here are some things that you guys can be praying for, investing into, and be aware of. And these are, they're from all kind of different circles of life, but they're people that I trust immensely, and I think are just vital to my to my flourishing as a human being. And then there's I've just had a lot of really great mentors and people that have invested, and I like, at the end of the day, it's like I am trying to accumulate a constellation of mentors and other people around me, because I just fundamentally believe that my life is more whole, more productive, more successful when I'm relying on others well.
Right. Well, and I think too, for me, like, we're really close friends and we chat a lot and talk a lot and text back and forth, but seeing that email come to my mailbox, I always read it right away, because there's stuff that are on the more deeper level than just like, hey, Joel, what are we going to record this next podcast about? Yeah. Or, like, what's the weather? When are we going to have campfire next? There's things that you're dealing with on a soul level that you're expecting the 5 or 6 of us, or however many there are, to hold you accountable to. Right. And I think I don't currently have a group specifically set up like that for me now. In the past I have, and we did it on Facebook. We did use a Facebook group, and we met in person. Sometimes I think that's important to also get like the face-to-face type of thing, because you get that there's difference when you're just reading things from somebody for sure, versus sending in like seeing it in person, talking about that. But at the same time, a lot of times I think that it's easier to, when you're in an email, when you're there, to text and be like, hey, I'm really struggling with XYZ. Right. Versus when you're in person, sometimes it's really hard to say, guys, I blew it today. I blew it again.
There's I don't know, getting the whole proximity thing of being really with somebody and saying, like, man, I need your help. I recognize that sometimes I don't have that within me, or like with like you and I, sometimes I've realized, like, okay, I've got to be about an hour into a conversation and before I'm going to get to a place where I'm like, oh, okay, here's the real issue on my heart or whatever. But the thing I'm wondering about, and I don't know if I really just have the answer to this, which, if you're listening to the show for answers, you're going to be real disappointed on this one. I'm sorry, but
we want this show to be a conversation.
Exactly.
So call our voicemail line.
That's right.
574-213-8702. Because that will, we want to involve you guys in this conversation too.
Right. And so I'm the thing that I just really thinking through is like, okay, how am I demonstrating? Yes, I want my kids to have certain competencies and to have certain abilities and to know how to navigate life and to be able to like trust themselves with responsibility and things like that. And at the same time, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, it's like, yeah, and I really, really want them to have a value of like bringing people on board in their life.
Right. Well, and I think that goes hand in hand with us as men doing that same thing and modeling that, you know, with accountability groups or whatever you're going to call them. And I think that can be, again, I mean, going back to like how you do it, that's how it doesn't really matter. You could even, you know, do a Zoom video call or whatever.
Right.
If you wanted, and that kind of gives you that more face-to-face, or you could do a podcast.
Also an option.
But I think though that like as you're doing that with like your kids, it's going to be better for your kids over in the long run because you have that outlet that you're able to kind of rely on other people. You're not going to do it yourself. You're not going to, when you fail as a dad, because you're going to fail as a dad. I mean, it's just, you're going to. Like those days that you fail, you can have those people in your life call out to you, touch base with you. You can touch base with them, say, hey, let's go get a coffee. And then your kids are going to see that and they're going to realize, oh, you know, dad, you know, while the movie Indiana Jones is really fun to watch, it's not reality. Like dad's not doing it. And dad, you know, I consider dad a man, a real man. You know, I think most kids do. Most kids, you know, especially when they're young, think that their dad is the hero. And to see the hero in their life rely on other people, that's incredible.
Yeah. So Andy, you can answer this question, but you can ask me this question back.
All right. Hey,
so here, gird your loins. Would you say that you saw your dad depending on other people when you were younger? Like, do you have that image in your mind?
Yeah. I can't look back and see a time right off my mind that I saw him necessarily having like a shield of prayer or, you know, like whatever you call it, like an accountability group. I'm pretty sure he did. Mm-hmm. I know he was involved in like the elder board and things like that at church. And so I know that there were men in his life that he was close with and did life with. And and you know, we did a lot of like small groupie type things with the church. So like, but that was, I know with like my mom and dad were both there doing that. So that was kind of a doing life with other people.
Right.
But I'm trying to think back as far as like the things that we're talking about, and I can't say that I remember that. How about yourself?
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat. I think like I have and it's interesting. I just don't know. I'm wondering if this has I'll have to get my dad on here eventually and ask him these questions, I guess.
Well, no, I think that'd be a great idea. I think eventually we would like to talk to our own fathers.
That could go places. But as I'm thinking now, I'm like, there was a period in time which I have memory of my father connecting with other guys more intentionally, more frequently. I think one of the big this is my suspicion. I think one of the big barriers that my dad had is that, and this is a credit to my mom and my dad and their marriage, I think my dad's marriage was in a lot better place than a lot of the other guys that he was hanging out with, and it was tough.
Right. Well, and yeah, when you are the person who's doing it well, it's hard to be that only person when you're in that, you know, when other people are relying on
my
you.
dad said to me the other day, he's like when you go and you're having a conversation with other guys from work and you start talking about the good stuff that's going on in your marriage, like they get upset.
Oh man.
And again, my dad's not a bragger, but like, you know, I looked at, I'm like, you know, he just honors my mom really well, and they have a really good relationship. Sometimes, and this is part of my dad's personality, but a high introvert. I think he's really okay with his friend just being his wife, and that's like the two of them, and then they get the grandkids come over, and you know, my brother and I come over and whatever, and like that seems fine. But I don't remember it being specifically exampled to me, like my dad having like a tribe of guys, you know, of people that were like really speaking in to life for him. And there is this sense of like a high individualism, you know, kind of thing. And I don't think he was thinking about that intentionally at the time, but it just kind of like it's the default. So, like that wasn't. I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, that wasn't exampled to me, like overtly exampled, where my dad sat me down one day and is like, I've got these men in my life that are pursuing life with me and they're fulfilling these roles and that kind of thing.
Do you think that a lot of this idea is just based on that, like our cultural idea of manhood and just the idea that men don't cry, men don't have emotions, men don't need help? Like that seems to be a cultural like idea of who men are. And like Dustin last week, that was when he read his idea of manhood, there was nothing in there at all about any of those things. Like men don't cry. Like there was a completely different idea of what manhood looked like. And I think a lot of this has to do with just our cultural idea. And I encourage you guys to seek out other men that you guys can do life with, because I think that's super important. A huge amount of marriages fail, and so even if you are super close with your wife, like I think you need those people to be able to bounce ideas off and talk to that aren't just your wife either.
Yeah, when you're not, I don't know, man. When I'm not around other people and other guys that know me well, and I'm not bouncing ideas off of or sharing my thoughts or whatever, like my own ideas start sounding better to me all the time, right?
Right.
And it's like a life skill to find a few people in your life that'll be like, dude, you're full of crap,
Right.
Like, you're like, I know that sounds good in your head, or like how you're justifying this behavior or this attitude or whatever, but like, man, I love you, but it's just terrible,
So let's talk about that a little bit. You had mentioned that you have this tribe of people that, a small tribe of people that you have that you send emails to.
Yeah.
That's your kind of main grounding place for you. Let's talk about that. How did you talk to them? Did you invite them into that? Did you say like, will you be this? Or did you start sending emails? Or what was the process in that?
So,
I know.
You got the email,
I got
right?
the email.
So a big thing was like, now this is for specifically like in their prayer focus, which, for those of you, depending where you are in your spiritual journey or whatever, you might hear me say like, oh, these are my prayer warriors. And that sounds like, I don't know, some weird hippy dippy religious language.
Yeah. Get a sword and fight.
What does that mean? So I've got a group of guys that basically I just contact, and this is a weakness on my part, I need to do more so regularly, but I basically just say like, guys, here's what's going on in my life. Here's where I am, where maybe I'm struggling, or where I'm feeling like I'm falling short, or whatever it might be. And they are committed to praying for those things and supporting me. Now, they're also committed to not judging me, not trying to fix me, and by the way, this is a super one-sided relation. Like this particular setup I have with these guys, super one-sided. They get my stuff, good, bad, whatever, and I reciprocate nothing. So I am literally offering nothing in that particular component.
Do you have other relationships that are either one side or the other way, or reciprocal in a circle, more of a matter like a traditional like accountability type group?
Right. So this was a good reminder. Even speaking of Dustin last time we were on, where I've got people that I am pouring into and expecting nothing back in return. Right now, on occasion, I might get something back, but like that's within my coaching practice and like things like that. Like I am there to serve and not expecting anything reciprocal. And then there are relationships like with you and I, a few other friends, where it's like we are co-laboring together. We are working through life together, and there are going to be times where I'm offering some things, and there are going to be times where I'm offering nothing and just receiving. But there is a generosity in that relationship where it's like we have no agenda other than we know that life will throw things our way, and then we will just respond together as best we can. And I have no expectation that you are going to be 100% on every single time, in terms of like knowing whatever magical answer, because it's not even like you giving other people the right answer. It is it is a commitment though to be with them.
Right. I think personally this is where I'm lacking right now in my life. So I think I'm going to make this commitment to you, Joel, and to our listeners, because I think that's important. Before our next episode, I'm going to work on formulating something that I can do, really, because I think that it's important, and I miss that communication. Like, I've got several friends who are dudes, and we meet regularly on and off, more like on an informal basis, but I'm lacking that group of people that can come around me and hold me accountable. So I'm committing to you and to our podcast listeners that before our next episode, I will have something in place to do that. So
beautiful. And that's the and so in doing that, like, I think the next thing is, then it's like, how do we, especially with our older boys, like my sons Aaron and Josiah, like, I want to be able to have the conversation with them about, hey, like, your dad has these people in his life, and it's really, really important, and that's why, like, and I'm really hoping that someday when you get a little bit older, like, now, it's a tough one, because right now I don't want other 8-9-year-olds
speaking into your son's life.
like
that's,
they're like the brain trust of
But I do think that, I mean, one of the things that Dustin had talked about last week was the idea of these other men in his life that are close to his children that Dustin trusts to kind of speak into their lives, and I think that's important too.
Yep.
Again, this is going back to that book, and if you haven't done the things to get the entry into get into our giveaway, which we'll give away next time. But he speaks about that a little bit, and I think that's important, because you're right. You can't expect 8, 9, 13-year-olds to kind of do that. But I mean, Micah, my oldest, is 13, and I think that's something that he can start doing now.
Right.
He can have other people, probably me approved.
Yes.
But I mean, like, the people that he can get together and kind of do. And I know that, like, one of the things that I really appreciate about Clinton Frame is where we go to church is they do have prayer warriors, mentors, whatever. Mentors that pray for children. So, like, when a family comes to the church or a kid is born, they get assigned a prayer mentor whose sole job is to pray for that child up and through high school. And I appreciate that. I'm a prayer warrior for a child who will actually, he's in high school now. Yeah. But and all of my kids have that, and so I think that, like, that's super important, because that's another adult that can speak into their life.
Right.
Obviously, like, I didn't really know my kids' prayer warriors when we started, but I appreciate all the things that they've done for them, and kind of been able to speak into their life. So I think that's one of the things that you can do as adults, is kind of find adults to speak into their lives, so that way they have other adults in that.
And and I think that's a great way. Like, as you're mentioning that, I'm like, well, that in of itself models for them that you're not like, I'm just going to be the super parent and I'm going to knock this out of the park by myself. Right?
We can't do that.
No, absolutely not. It absolutely takes a village. I love. And when, as you speak with our faith community that we have and how we do that, like, for my role, as I'm thinking about youth and young adults, I mean, the goal is that they have 5 significant relationships with somebody through that period of their life that are not mom and dad. And in doing so, you create all these interconnected relationships of support, where they feel like, oh, like, I've got a lot of good things speaking into my life. I don't have to go at this alone. And to be honest with you, this has been my experience so far. Like, and I'm reminded of this, by the way, as all these college students are coming home for a break right now. Conversations with mom and dad after they've been out on their own for a little bit can be tough. They can be super hard.
I'm sure.
And it's like, but conversations with another
right.
adult are way less intense and yet still helpful.
Well, and those adults can ask the tough questions, like, okay, so, like, how is your faith at school? Like, how are you doing in life? Like, what does this look like? Whereas mom and dad saying that, like, they're gonna be like,
get off my case.
I am not gonna speak to you.
That's right.
So I think that's super important to do those relationships like that.
Yeah, and we're so connected and yet we're so alone. And that just, thinking about where technology is, and I'm increasingly not someone to throw. I think if you blame technology, you lose. I think technology is a vehicle that unearths our just our human condition, our propensity toward giving a false self and not the real self, and whatever. But we've been faking it, and we've been hypocritical, faking it, putting on masks, all those sort of things for a long time. It's just we have another vehicle here that just like helps us do that more efficiently, right?
Sure. Well, and so let's talk a little bit about when we talked about this idea of your tribe and your people that you can rely on and do life and kind of keep you accountable. But like, as you and I, who are the people that we depend on in our lives? And I think, for me, it's probably getting less and less, but I still do rely on both my parents. Like,
sure.
I mean, not necessarily for, hey, can I borrow $10 like I used to in high school? But I mean, it is. I still rely on them. I still call them up. I still bounce ideas off of them.
Right.
It's a different relationship than what it used to look like.
Right.
But it is still where I do depend on them, and I do rely on them to speak not only to who I am, but I also rely on them for like encouragement. And like one of the things that I really appreciate about my parents, and especially my dad, is that there's been several times he says, "You're doing it right. Like, we see how you're raising your kids, and you're doing it right."
Yeah, I'm going to think back to the comment. Well, even what a thing I said to you a while ago about what was it said? I said, when I said I like who your children are becoming.
Right.
Like, I need to hear that from other, like, because sometimes I'm like, I think my kids are jerks, and it's probably my fault, or or whatever. And it's like, well, to have an outside perspective of, what, like, it's gonna be okay, is good. Yes, to hear from your fathers. My dad, my dad, he thinks he's funny.
Most dads do. I mean, that's the dad joke
super
thing.
Thinks he's funny. Well, he part of his humor is like when he can tell that like all four of my kids have decided that they're possessed by the devil all at one time, and I'm we're having one of those moments where like nothing is going right. Everybody's spilling their milk all at the same time. They are fighting, and it's all whatever. And he'll be like, he does these things where he's like, "What's the matter, Joel? Man, get it together." Like he'll, that kind of thing. And I'm like, "Oh, buddy." And but I just remind him that my parenting journey is twice as hard as his. He only had 2 kids, and I've got 4.
Right. And you have a mixture of boys and girls.
Yeah.
I think
it's completely different.
I experienced one of those with you on the phone the other night when we were chatting about this episode, and Molly, your daughter, was like complete meltdown on the phone. I'm like, Joel, just go take care of that. We'll talk about this later.
She just waits. She knows when I'm on the phone, and so I'm gonna go off the rails. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about we've talked about modeling for our sons, because I think all sons are gonna look what is manhood, what does this look like, what does dad think, what does dad do? But let's talk about a little bit about our daughters, because we both have daughters. I've got
daughters.
two living ones, and you've got one. So let's talk a little bit about the daughters. Like, how do we demonstrate that for them? I mean, yes, they're gonna see that we're not superheroes, but they do look up to us. That we're still their hero, their prince, their whatever. And so how do we do that for our girls?
Well, and again, we talked about this last time some too. I don't know if I want to model, especially when my daughter will one day be looking for a man to marry. I don't want to model for my daughter a sense of like this real like I got it all together kind of person, right? And so it's like, okay, I giving some sort of insight into our children about like our own shortcomings or brokenness is important. And by the way, I'm also really, I'm fearful for any young man who comes to my door to take my daughter out or whatever. Yeah, shotgun in hand, blah blah blah. I'm a peaceful, loving man, Andy.
Right, but every dad has that. Like, I'm gonna sit with the shotgun.
That's right. That whole clean my gun when he comes over. Right. And for me, it's like no. My expectations will be clear. And that's I think a fair thing to say. But I'm just I want to show my daughter that so there's two things for herself personally and how she views herself and thinks about herself. That's a consideration. The other is what she's looking for in a husband, in a mate, in a boyfriend, whatever it is.
Well, and I mean, I think that the statistics show that like you end up marrying somebody that's like your parents. So like realistically, your daughter is going to marry someone that's like you most likely.
Yeah.
And so if you want your daughter's husband to have those relationships where he's not just macho dude, you need to model that for them too.
Right. And part of me is like, okay, well, like, I think about today, man. I had this man. I was holding on to Molly today, or I was hugging her, and I was like hugging her / transporting her from one place to another.
Sometimes that's the same.
And we're walking through the parking lot together. It was just her and I, and we're walking through the parking lot, and I just like what was that? Like, whispered in her, and I go, honey, Daddy loves you so much, and cute little, I love you too, Daddy, and whatever. And I think to myself, it's like, okay, part of it is, am I just modeling to her a sense of like, it's okay. It's okay for Dad to show affection, to be affectionate, and to talk about feelings and things like that, right? So that's part of it, to do that more regularly, but to be physically close, and things like that, and modeling those things. But I don't know, the more and more I go on, it's just like I'm wondering. I mean, it's just important to ask, like, how do your kids see you? Like, how are your kids experiencing you on a regular basis?
Oh, and I think that's hard to ask. You can't just be like, hey, how do you view me? I mean, I think that's gonna fail,
right?
Because they're gonna say I love you,
right?
But I think one of the things that I've seen that's helped me is having my wife Julie to be like, hey, like, you've been coming down really hard on the kids, or you've been treating them well, or she is my eyes and ears outside of that, because she can see my relationships, how I'm chatting back and forth with them, how I'm treating them, and it's been super helpful for me, because she's been able to point out character flaws in me that I need to change. And so sometimes I don't see those things, and so for me, I've been able to rely on my wife to say, hey, look, like, that's not something that you want to pass to your kids, or you don't want them to be viewing you like that. So that may be something you need to change, and I appreciate that about her.
Do you, like, your frustration with your children, do you think that frustration is ever actually about them?
I don't think so. And to be honest, I mean, going back a couple episodes when we were talking about Macy and my stillborn daughter,
yeah.
like, I think a lot of my anger and frustration is stemmed out of that. Like, I mean, growing up, and I've seen that growing up, I had an anger problem. I kind of took care of that. It kind of worked out really well. I don't get nearly as angry as I don't get as physically angry as I used to.
Gotcha.
But I kind of had the under wraps, and then it kind of surfaced and bubbled up again when we had my stillborn daughter. So, like, that's something, and I'm trying to get kind of to the root of that, and still kind of like praying and asking people about that too, because I'm trying to figure out what the root cause of that is. And
because the thing I get so frustrated with myself about, is I'm pretty sure that I need to be apologizing to my kids a lot more than I am.
Right.
So this is, again, having this whole like rugged individualist, having it all together, whatever. Like, on the other side, it's like, when I'm aware that I mess up with them, I need to tell them. I need to tell them that.
Right. I think one of the things that I struggle with is I struggle with over apologizing. Sometimes, like, I get angry and apologize, and I feel like a lot of times I'm over apologizing because it's like like, okay, Dad,
that thing you did do was the thing you did though was stupid and wrong. But maybe I shouldn't have freaked out.
Right. And so that's a tough balance for me to be able to say, okay, like, you were wrong and I was wrong. Like both of us were wrong in this whole exchange. I shouldn't have treated you like that, but you shouldn't have been doing what you were doing. Like, and so I go back with the, like, sometimes I over apologize, and I think that, like, that also may not be good. Like, I just need to, I guess, think about my actions first, so I don't do that. But
right, and the over apologizing thing, I mean, a lot of that comes from it's where you're experiencing guilt and shame from something versus a desire to make, to rectify and make things better and bring redemption to the whole thing. But, like, yeah, the most of the times where I lose it with my kids, when my anger boils over and I don't like the person that I am in that moment, this is the thing, it's seldom about them.
Right, and I think that's really, like, my anger with them too is not really about them. It's about something else, and I haven't completely figured that out yet. What that is. I've been able to kind of sit back and realize that I because I've been pointed out from my wife that, you are getting angry and it's really not about them. Like, I've been able to see that, and it's been able to help me be not so angry. I mean, with them, like, sit back and be like, okay, like, really, like, me coming home and there being, Legos all over the floor. I'm not mad about that. I'm mad about what happened at work or whatever. Like, there's something different.
You will be mad once you step on them, though.
That is true.
I feel like my thing is, it's like, I go to sleep and then they get up at night and they like sand the edges of all their Legos and wait for me to walk through them.
Right, the Lego elf or something that comes through.
Oh my gosh, it's the worst. It's the worst pain, and until you've experienced it as a parent, you've not lived the life.
Right.
But yeah, I think we're in this season right now, Andy, where we have so much going on with our kids. There is this desire. I want to be investing in my kids all the way along the road. I don't want to have these major, ideally these major dips where I'm feeling like disconnected and then I have to like try to like recalibrate all the time and get back on the horse. But there is this sense in which it's like, okay, I do really, really, really want my kids to see that dad needs a lot of help and that dad is pursuing help and that we don't live life alone.
Right. Well, and I think that even goes deeper. Like, sometimes this is maybe something that you need to actually, like, seek counseling for too. Right. And that's something that I've talked about. It's something that I've done, something I may do in the future. Because I think that, like, it's not a character flaw if you have to go to counseling. Like, really, it's not. Like, there's a lot of people that do it, and it's okay.
The flaw is the flaw is in you rejecting that, and you. Because I'm just going to say, like, in my counseling practice, right? How many times when it's a married couple does wife come in and husband's not there? Which is a whole other episode. But, like, I'm like,
you can't.
Like, and if they've got kids, it's like, what are you modeling your kids? Right. Oh, that mom's got all the problems, or that only mom cares enough, or the only mom will be transparent enough to actually. And it's just like, dudes, come on now.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, this is something serious enough, like, that we took a whole episode on it. Like, it's important for you not to be thinking you can not only do it on your own, but that it's okay. Like, to model that, like, you need help, we need help. Like, we as people need help from other people.
Yep. I'm able to live with the joy that I have today. Well, Jesus, number one. Number two is the really beautiful men and other women, just friends that we have, the community of friends that we have that have just surrounded us. And again, we're in the, like, right now as dads, we're in the thick of it. Like, our kids still need a lot of attention. They're not driving yet, which will cause more stress for different reasons.
I'm getting there.
Oh man, he's so close. Oh, God bless you. But, like, I just, like, it's tough work. It's beautiful work. It's tough work. But, like, my goodness, I need help. I need a lot of help to make that happen. And we've said, like, thank goodness for grandparents. We don't know what we would do without you. And then even my, like, I even think, like, I've even enlisted my grandma Carla. You know, she's with Molly one day a week, and I am so grateful for that day too. It just takes an absolute. I mean, we know this. It takes a village, but really, at the end of the day, like, I just look at them like, yeah, without this really beautiful like network of support and people coming around me, it's like I am not the person that I am today. I'm a fraction of that. I'm a shell of a man, you know.
Right.
So, but I'm glad. I really am glad, Andy, that like we get to be on that journey together with each other, and I'm really hoping that as time goes on, that we get to just call our men to that and invite them to it, and yeah.
I would encourage you guys to do that. It's something that I'm going to seek out this week. I'm going to go ahead and try and find a group of people that I know. I have an idea of people. I have an idea of people that I want to ask for this. People that are a part of my life that I know that can speak into my life, that can call me out on things that I trust. And so I'm gonna form that this week. I'm gonna try and get that going before this next episode of the podcast. I would encourage you guys to do the same. We would love to hear what you guys do for this, how you guys show that you don't need to be Superman or Batman or Indiana Jones to your kids. Like, you need help. We'd love to hear how you do that. So share that with us via a voicemail, 574-213-8702, 574-213-8702. Call us, leave us a voicemail. Share with us how you do this. We would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, as always, we appreciate those that you have supported us through Patreon. So just a reminder, you can get on the support wagon over at dudesanddadspodcast.com/support. Any dollar amount helps. We have a very low barrier of entry into our support system.
And we do give back to our Patreons too.
That's right.
So you get behind the scene videos, mentions in the show, things like that, guys. I would encourage you guys to go out this week and just get that support group if you don't have one. Try to find other people that you can go ahead and just that can speak into your life.
We're always here for you guys. If we can offer any support, help, anything like that, let us know. Reach out. Well, I guess until next time, everybody, thanks for listening. It's been another great episode.
Peace.
Grace and peace.